Is Trump whining? Let's just start there. We'll get to the DNC in a moment. We've got another whole day to go. Let's flip the script. Is he whining? Is he losing votes? Is he right to go on the personal poor me, poor me?
Well, I think he's whining. Trump is dejected. I mean, the race has been totally pushed around. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, it looked like he was going to just cruise to victory, and now the script has totally been flipped. So he's really struggling right now, I think, to figure out what line of attack works on Kamala Harris. You know, he said that she didn't identify as black. He said that she's a diversity, equity, and inclusion candidate. None of that's resonating with voters, and we can see that in the polls. So he's still trying to figure this out. He hasn't gotten there yet. I think ultimately he'll just settle on this line that she is, Harris, a San Francisco liberal. But for now, he's whining. I think that that's the best way to describe it.
And let's just round that off. You would say that Trump has squandered the black vote in that a month ago he was on pace to collect more black votes than any Republican presidential candidate. How injurious was that performance at the journalist? Was that the pivotal moment, perhaps, in this election at the Black Journalists Convention?
Well, I think that combined with the fact that Kamala Harris is now the Democratic nominee, and she would be the first female individual of color to hold that position. So it's a combination of factors, but certainly he hasn't done himself, Trump, any favors with the black vote. You're right, he was on pace for this record-setting pace among Republican presidential candidates. He's really squandered that. He's really squandered that among black males. If you look at the data, that's where most of his decline has been.
We caught up with the Agricultural Secretary, Vilsack, and he talked about Waltz. Obviously, he had a 15-minute performance to the nation last night. I just want to get your sense. Vilsack said this guy is one who can talk rural. He can win. He can convince people in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. There you go. There's no one's going to win, I don't think, without Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona. He really has the ability, or do you believe he has the ability, to talk rural, cut through, and convert the undecided vote in those swing states?
Well, if you just look at Tim Walz, I think he's the idea of a candidate who can talk to these rural voters, can talk to these blue-collar voters. I mean, he wears camouflage. He's often pictured with a gun. He's a hunter. And so everything about him says, I can speak to these voters that maybe Kamala Harris was having a tough time resonating with. At the same time, I do think that he has some political liabilities insofar as many of the policies that he pushed while governor are far to the left of where kind of mainstream America is, centrist American. So that's a difficult needle for him to thread. But I think just the optics of him are really good for Democrats.
Foreign policy, my understanding, in most countries rarely wins elections. Blinken returns without a deal from a whirlwind tour of the Middle East. A great deal has been written about protests, and there are some protests outside the DNC. But is it going to really swing anything in this election, do you think? I mean, these protests are not as bad, I think, as many people had presumed they would be. I think that's one assessment. But to the extent that they don't have a win for Biden at the moment in the Israel-Hamas no ceasefire yet, it doesn't seem to be bearing much either on the DNC or on the narrative of this election.
I think you're right, absolutely, that the protests have not been as much of a distraction as many Democrats feared. So that's certainly good news for Kamala Harris. I think she's still kind of struggling exactly how to frame this issue to voters. At the same time, I think you're absolutely correct that most Americans, at the end of the day, are not going to be voting on foreign policy. They're going to be voting on domestic policy. They're going to be voting on taxes, on education, on healthcare, and so on. But, you know, we still saw that protest vote in the primaries back when Joe Biden was the main candidate in Michigan. And so even if, 10,000 Democrats in any given state decide not to show up over this issue, that could, on the margins, make a difference.